Hey, this is Keith with How to Build Your Own Home, and I want to talk about something I mentioned in a post a long time ago, but I want to kind of reiterate it here and give some added insight. When's the best time to break ground? Well, the best time to break ground is when you don't want to finish in the winter. You don't want to build a home, so you're trying to finish it in the winter. That's brutal, and you really don't want to break ground in the winter. What do you want to do in the winter? So if you're building a home and it's going to take anywhere from 6 months to 12 months, owner builders typically take longer. They can take between 2 and 3 months longer than a traditional general contractor. Given that that's the case, you're going to be in the winter time at some point when you're building that home. What do you want to do in the winter? What's the best thing to do in the winter when you're building a home? That's your mechanical. Once the frame's installed and you've got the roof all dried in, then people can come in and they can set up space heaters and they can do electrical, your plumbing, your heating and air conditioning, even your low voltage, and that's not a problem. A lot of those contractors are kind of used to that. They're in a dry environment because the roof is dried in, and that's something you can plan for to be done in the wintertime. Everything else, I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend trying to frame it or finish your home in the winter. I've tried to finish some homes at 9,000 feet. I work in 2 to 3 different climate zones. As you can see, I've got a palm tree in the front of this home here, which we're just about ready to finish. We're going through a couple of things right now to finish this up. So I build in a temperate zone where it's great to build anytime, well, except for today. It was freezing and my carpet installer couldn't install the carpet because my HVAC is not installed. So I'm getting at a really key point. When you get to the finish, paint, even your cabinet installers, your flooring installers, carpet and tile, it can't be too cold. You need to have some heat inside the facility. I've built north of here up in some ski resort areas at 10,000 feet, and we had to have heat on fast. We had to have it on during even a lot of the mechanical install because it was just too cold. And so you may want to put that up at the forefront. But you really don't want to have your finish in the winter if you can avoid it. I like to break ground sometime around mid to late fall or even a little bit into the summer. If I can break ground depending upon the complexity of the home, I get all my groundbreaking done, and then I get my foundation in and I get it framed and dried in before late November or even mid-November depending upon the temperate climate. And if I can get it dried in before the holidays, then guess what? I got January and February and March, and I can send my HVAC, my electrical, and my plumbing to go work inside. It's a cold environment, but they can install their mechanical inside a cold environment, meaning that nothing else can take place on the outside because of the inclement weather. I've got a home up north right now, about an hour and a half from here that we're building, and it's got a foot of snow on it, all right? But I saw that coming. It's all dried in. The scaffolding is around the home, but I've got an insulation contractor going up there, and he says, Keith, we'll punch it out. It's okay if it's cold. We'll get the insulation in. So I knew that could take place. So things are moving along. You want to see what can happen in the winter and what can move along to keep the project going rather than at a standstill. That's the one thing you want to try to avoid. Painting just can't happen in cold. I did that with a job a long time ago, and all the paint just dripped. It got all over the windows, and we even had a stove. We had a Franklin stove in the building. And this was about 5,200 feet up in elevation, so it was a colder environment. We stoked that sucker, and we still couldn't get it hot enough because we didn't have the doors sealed up. We had plastic on the doors. It just wasn't working. So think in terms of heat. When the application of a material needs to happen with heat. All your flooring typically needs heat, especially carpet needs heat. Paint needs heat, or it's just not going to dry. It's going to stick there. It's going to be wet forever. It's not going to work. Think about these things. When best to break ground. If I was in the Northeast, I would want to break ground as early as wet, muddy spring, rather than late fall. In my temperate climate, I'd want to break ground in September, August, September. It's a great time to break ground for my temperate climate. But in a more colder temperate climate, I want to break ground in spring. I've got a job that will be breaking ground on between 3 and 4 weeks from today. It's in a very cold climate, and it's windy and cold, and it's got a lot of snow issues. And I just dug and put a sign in the lot, and I dug down 2.5 feet, solid mud, nothing but mud. But we're gonna go for it in about a month. Hopefully a lot of that mud, if we have some good weather and it's gonna dry out, I'll be able to break ground. I'll be able to get a foundation hopefully before the end of March. We can frame by the end of April, May. And if I'm all framed for that, then we can start moving in with mechanical through the heat of the summer, getting it all dried in, getting it all finished. And if I'm lucky, if all goes well, we can be ready and in this home before maybe Thanksgiving, or for sure by the Christmas holidays. So that's in a real cold environment. You're trying to push that breaking ground stage as early in the spring as you can. In a desert, drier climate, you're okay with going just about any time, but late fall is actually a great time to break ground. These are just my experiences. Again, I build at 10,000 feet, I build at 6,000 feet, and right now at 2,200 feet. And these are huge changes in build. They affect everything. And if you're not planned and if you're not thinking what best can happen in those really cold climates, it can throw you off. It can put you behind on your schedule because you didn't plan for it. So these are just some thoughts. Again, this is Keith Kelch with How to Build Your Own Home, getting ready to finish a job with a palm tree out front and pushing on a job that's got a foot of snow on it.